Now, the crazy thing is we don't always need Satan or people, though, to lure us into temptation. There's another source of temptation that we have to be on the watch for. There's an internal, maybe this is the worst one of all, the most devastating one of all. There's an internal source of temptation, our very own hearts. James said in James chapter 1, verse 14, each person is tempted when he is lured away and enticed by Satan? No. By his bad friends? No. James said, by his own desire. This is sometimes what the Bible refers to as the flesh. Right? Like that internal desire. It just sort of pops up and we feel this strong inclination toward a particular sin, perhaps. There's a temptation. You see, each one of us has a particular black spot, if you will, or black spots. Particular temptations. You sometimes hear of someone else engaging in some sin or falling into some sort of idolatry, and you think, how could that person ever do that? I mean, this is not my struggle. That's not the thing that I wrestle with. But the reality is, each one of us has temptations that are unique to us, and we need to be watchful of them. Weak black spots that if we don't cling to the Lord and say, God, deliver me, will grow. This is why Jesus, later in Matthew, when he's talking to his disciples there in the Garden of Gethsemane, he tells them, watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak. What is your weak spot, brothers and sisters? Is there an area where Satan has your number, where people can entice you into sin? Or maybe it's not Satan or other people, maybe it's just your own heart. A particular temptation that you're frequently lured into by your own heart that you know is bad for your soul. Could it be that God is trying to tell you something about yourself based on how you respond to those temptations? You know, when the Israelites came out of the land of Egypt and God had brought them through the wilderness, the time of temptation, the time of testing, do you remember what God said through Moses to the Israelites? In Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 2, Moses told them, remember that these 40 years the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness so that he might humble you and test you in order to know what was in your heart, whether or not you would keep his commandments. Just a few chapters later, in Deuteronomy chapter 13, verse 3, Moses said, you shall not listen to the words of the false prophet or the dreamer of dreams, for the Lord your God is testing you to know whether you love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. You see, here's the really interesting thing. Temptation or testing, almost more than anything else, gives us a window into our hearts. It shows us where our affections lie. It teaches us about what it is that we truly love. God doesn't tempt us with sin. God does not force us to sin. God is not the author of sin. But sometimes he allows temptation to come our way, not to stumble us, but to graciously show us where our affections are, to warn us, or to prove us. And when we pray, God, do not bring me into temptation, we're not just saying, don't let me experience it, but really what we're doing is we're asking God to hold us fast through it. We're saying, God, may my love for you be greater than my love for any of the temptations that Satan or the world or that my own sinful heart present to me.